My story begins with my parents. I was blessed to have an amazing mother who set aside her career as a dentist to be a stay-at-home mother. She was my light for my entire childhood. My dad was highly educated as well, but when he could not get a job using his engineering degree in botany, he went into sales. Being that my dad enjoyed the finer things in life, he worked long hours. It was just as well as he was not very paternal. He truly had no idea how to be a parent. His role was to be the provider, which he did. My mother ended up being everything to me and my two brothers. I had a seemingly normal childhood. I loved school and realized I really loved learning. Both my parents did always encourage education. They made it perfectly clear that we were to go to college after high school. We just needed to decide what we would study. My mom also made sure my brothers and I participated in many extracurricular activities. When I was 12 years old, my mother and I were putting sheets on my parents' bed, which we did together regularly. I remember her saying, "Sandy, I think I feel a lump in my breast." I remember thinking it was probably nothing. At that age, I was so engrossed in my own activities in school that I truly didn't give it a second thought. As it turned out, it was something. My mother was diagnosed with breast cancer. Again, I thought she would be fine. She had many friends who were doctors, and I was confident she'd be okay. About a month later, she had a mastectomy. At that time, I didn't realize how traumatic this must have been for her. I can only imagine now how scared she must have been. She never let us know how difficult this was. I will never forget when she came home and showed me her scars. She recovered and tried her best to continue as normal as possible. I overheard a conversation she had with my father, which indicated she was now cancer-free. I remember thinking that now we would be normal again. It was only about 2 months after her surgery that she began to get sick again. After a trip to the oncologist, she shared with me that the cancer came back. She then began chemo treatments. My family watched as my mother truly suffered. I, in my 12-year-old brain, still thought she would get through this and our lives would return to normal. She would be in and out of the hospital for the next few months. By now, I was a freshman in high school, my older brother was a senior, and my younger brother was in 4th grade. February 19th, 1981, my brothers and I were in school and my mother was in the hospital. My grandparents were visiting from Mexico. I was in my English class when the classroom phone rang. I was told I was going home. My aunt was in the office. As I got in the car, she and my cousin told my brother and I that my mom took a turn for the worse. We picked up my little brother also and went home. When we went in the house, many of my extended family were there crying. My aunt then told my brothers and I that my mom had passed away at the hospital. I remember feeling completely numb. Looking back, I was truly in disbelief and shock. My initial thought was that they made a mistake. No one told us that she was going to die. That night, I went to bed like normal. The next day, I went to school like normal. Since I had no idea just what to do, I just continued with my normal routine. It wasn't until the funeral a few days later that I realized my mom was gone forever and our lives would never be the same. Days turned into weeks, then months, and finally years. I didn't really ever mourn her death. I don't think I even knew how. Instead, I began to completely immerse myself in school. I was already in band. I joined drill team and became president. My motivation was to make my mom proud of me, as well as avoid being home. My dad was not taking my mother's death well. For a long time, my dad would come home and just cry in his room. My older brother began being rebellious and started drinking, and so went my high school years. As much as I missed my mom, I was completely immersed with band, student government, as well as my grades. As I started college majoring in business, I decided I would never get married nor have children. I could not risk having a close relationship with anyone. I was fine knowing that I would get through this life as a single woman, or so I thought. I was also fine not having children or working with them. After all, they were dirty and had runny noses. I was very uncomfortable around them, or so I thought. After college, I worked in banking, lending, and accounting. I was happy, or so I thought. I was in the middle of my MBA program when I met Manny. 6 months later, we were married. I'd be lying if I said our first year in marriage was bliss. This was one of the most challenging years of my life. It is nothing short of a miracle that we made it through. My husband is a saint. About a year later, I became pregnant. I had never been so scared in my life. I had no one but my doctor to ask questions. I missed my mom so much. I was never going to get married, much less have children. What happened to my plans? I had no idea how to do this mommy thing. I remember thinking, how did this happen? How did I get here? After Adam was born, I had 2 other children within 3 years. I really loved being a mom. I realized I loved being with children and helping them learn. Who would have thought? We had purchased a home in a small cul-de-sac. I was now surrounded by teachers, and I was working as a realtor. The teachers on my street seemed happy. They appeared to be stress-free and had weekends off. They began to encourage me to become a teacher. In February 2001, I enrolled in a teacher credentialing program. I will never forget my first quarter. I was amazed at how much I loved my classes and really enjoyed learning. I finally found my purpose. It was as if God had been leading me in this direction for a long time. I was just too stubborn to acknowledge it until now. For the first time, I felt truly happy with what I was doing. In January 2005, I finally had my own classroom. I will never forget being handed my classroom key for the first time. I felt as if I had won the lottery. I remember sitting at my teacher desk and crying. I was truly humbled and overwhelmed. I feel like being a teacher is an awesome responsibility. For the first time in my life, I could say I truly love my job. I was now immersed in learning teaching strategies, classroom management techniques, curriculum, and standards. I soon returned to school to obtain my administrative credential. I was hired at Moreno Valley Unified School District. Many schools are Title I schools with a large percentage of SED students. Many of our students have difficult home lives. They've had to deal with much tragedy in their short lives. Many live with an aunt, a grandparent, and many are foster kids. I truly feel that I am there for a reason. My purpose is to inspire and instill hope in those students as well as their parents. This year, I became an assistant administrator. I feel truly privileged and honored to be in this position. When I started at Moreno Valley Unified, I wished I was working at a more middle-class school. I truly don't feel that anymore. I know I am exactly where I am meant to be. I get excited to go to work each and every day. I am extremely passionate about helping these students. I truly cannot see myself doing anything else. I love my students and they know it. My message to them is no matter what. No matter what happens at home, you can still achieve your goals. No matter what tragedies happen in your life, you can succeed. No matter what people tell you, you will succeed. Stay focused, work hard, have fun, and never, ever lose sight of your goals. Not only is it my goal to inspire my students, it is my aspiration to plant seeds with my teachers, seeds of understanding, compassion, patience, and genuine concern for their students and their families. There's a quote that I heard when I first became a teacher that has resonated with me. Children don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. I used to be angry with God for my mom's death. I felt cheated and alone. I now know that if I hadn't had that experience, I would have never considered becoming a teacher. I know that my purpose is to inspire our at-risk students, their parents, and teachers to transform their lives.